Hello and welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Jim Rugg.
I'm Ed Piscor.
And I'm Tom Scholey.
We're going to look at some James O'Barr art. You know, big fan of James O'Barr here at Cartoonist Kayfabe. Doesn't have that much art outside of the Crow, so I found a new piece that's pretty interesting, also for you Star Trek fans. Before we do, I want to ask everybody out there to like, follow, and subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe YouTube channel if you haven't already done so. Be sure and hit that bell icon next to the subscribe button. That way you'll be notified when a new video is posted. And if you want to run off to eBay, Amazon, or your local comic shop and try to track down something like Fugitive #1, for example, you'll have a leg up on the competition because you'll know about it first. Also, let the video play through to the end. That allows YouTube to share our videos with other comics fans on YouTube and introduces Cartoonist Kayfabe to potentially new audience members, and it's how we grow the channel, so we appreciate your help on that.
We'll take a look at Fugitive, the Fugitive 1 story, which this is something, you could find this in the quarter bins.
Yes, that's how I found it.
Yeah, this is in the quarter bins. I have it, I might have 3 copies of this thing. Couldn't find one of them in time for the video, but super happy to look at this. I did grab this in a quarter bin this past week, and we did a video about Caliber Presents issue #1 as being the holy grail of Outlaw Comics. This is, this is a contender for part 2 for sure.
Yeah, definitely something that we will, again, as a James O'Barr fan, there's not that much. So whenever you find some, you want to dig into it. And Caliber, another company that we've talked about quite a bit that we enjoy out of Michigan. So this is an anthology, and it's a parody, which is how I think they get away with what we're going to show in a minute. But you can see James O'Barr and Guy Davis here in the story that we're going to be looking at today kind of team up. And I think the main Guy Davis contribution is this first page, and that's in the credits at the end of the story. But Vince Locke on lettering. So you have Vince Locke, Guy Davis, and James O'Barr's hands on this story.
We talked about that in the Caliber Presents issue 1. There's that comic called I.O. with Danzig, the cybernetic mercenary squad. And just on the fly, I was racking my brain trying to figure out what the name of their crew was called, because in that story there was no individual credits, but you could obviously see the hand of everybody. Barbed Wire Halo Studios.
That's a mouthful.
Is what their consortium was called. So this is a de facto Barbed Wire Halo Studios comic book.
Yes, and this is a story. Charles Marshall writes all the stories in here about this fugitive character, and it's about basically this guy, running from a bounty hunter and through these different parodies, I guess I would say.
Yeah, we see him meeting the Munsters.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you get this in like Ninja Turtles too, where it's like, hey, we're the baby boomer generation, and now we get to tell you the stuff we're into.
That's exactly right. And who would have thunk James O'Barr into Star Trek? Pretty good likenesses.
What else was? There's not a lot. Pop culture was so much smaller back then.
I was surprised whenever I found out about this story to open it up and see like how, these are likenesses. This hardly feels like a parody. It's so
stuff.
Close.
You could see the James O'Barr in here, but the line quality is so different, and I wonder if a little of that is Vince Locke marks or something.
Yeah, or a Guy Davis. It is those kind of like pen lines that I think of in his early work.
James O'Barr would talk about discovering manga in like the early 80s, and it's to me it's very adventurous to like have hatching on eyeballs and having the big shine like that. It creates this very wet eye that I think it's really attractive.
It's funny too to me to think of like how you put together likenesses at this time period.
I guess you'd have like
Stalogs.
Well, I was thinking like you'd have like Star Trek baseball cards or whatever.
Maybe. Yeah, whatever reference you could find.
We call them non-sports cards in the field.
And it's kind of a regular Star Trek-like plot. They're around a planet and they're beaming up and down, except for this fugitive character is part of the crew, posing as part of the crew.
If this is all J.O.B. inking, this is a connective tissue piece between stuff like The Crow and that Wile E. Coyote comic that is like very line-heavy, pen-heavy, rather than brush.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's a result of just sharing studio space with guys that are using different tools too, where it's like, yeah, let me try that.
When you can be with somebody and you see them putting marks down and how cool it looks, you gotta try it sometimes. That's the cool part about like if you go off to like art school and you're like in a dorm situation rather than commuting, because you get to see that stuff throughout the day.
And you mentioned manga and those eyeballs, Ed. I see it just on any of this line work. You know, it feels like it's dashed off quickly, and you're almost chasing grayscales and values with these lines rather than, say, like, you know, a line around a jaw that clearly delineates a form. In this case, it's really almost like, well, maybe you don't have the screen tone there, so you're generating that kind of gray out of these quickly dashed off lines.
I'm thinking of Michael Golden specifically in that panel that you pointed out.
And, you know, once in a while it does feel like, oh yeah, there's the James O'Barr Crow kind of faces.
Totally.
And the first guy that feels the wrath of this fugitive character is beamed into a wall and begs for death.
That's always the classic thing that
For the
everybody
love
would
of
talk
God,
about.
Kill me.
And that would always be the threat in X-Men comics with Nightcrawler and Kitty Pryde and
Yes.
stuff. Like, so, like, yeah, let's see that, man.
Hey, it's not just X-Men. Anytime you start teleporting, it's a concern.
Yeah, see the prestige.
And the close-up, the emo of this guy, please, and I'm sorry, and shoots him. But the crying tears.
You love it, man.
Not gory enough. I feel like you'd be like oozing and stuff if you were embedded in a wall, you know?
If it was just a Barbed Wire Halo Studios comic, we would have that, but we have this X factor of this writer guy.
So this is a pretty clever stunt. They realize what's going on, that this guy's a bad guy, and they're going after him, and they check the coordinates of the last, like, beam. He set it up to beam, like, 20 feet above the ground on this planet. So when they show up, the first thing that happens is they fall a couple stories to quite a bit of pain.
Yeah,
Crunch.
Some broken legs, yeah.
Yeah.
That
worse.
treatment with the Zipatone is very Wally Wood.
The gradation or the drawing, like the white
gradation,
on top?
yeah. And also, like, there's a mangaka influence of just chipping away at the dots.
Yeah, even the clouds I would think of, like, I'll give credit to, like, Manga Skies.
Yeah,
I
that's
feel
what
like
I'm
they do
saying.
stuff that's practically photorealistic with that.
Yeah. And at this point, they actually sell, like, the leader sells screens. Like, when I went to Sakaido, there is maybe 100 different screen tones of skies.
See, now, Ed, you're showing the tricks off now, where it's like, maybe I should be less impressed next time I see a good-looking sky in the manga I'm reading.
Sure, yeah.
Might not just be the artist figuring that part out. And of course, one guy is tracking this down to this planet and trying to. It's layers on layers. It could almost be a Star Trek episode.
Yeah,
right?
it's good, man.
Like an interdimensional traveler coming through and crossing their paths, and you see them now, cutting between the Enterprise and this planet,
That's James O'Barr going ham right there.
leaning in a little bit.
Talking about leaning in. And then the crow comes on the, proto-crow, dude. Like, the mullet hasn't quite grown yet.
It's so funny to see, and like cosplay, crow cosplaying as Star Trek.
That James T. Kirk hairline is perfect, too. And isn't it funny how James T. Kirk's hairline is pushed back further than T.J. Hooker's? Who comes much later.
Not the first or last actor to fall under that.
See Stan Lee.
He has a better diet, so his hairline started coming forward.
See Elon Musk.
And another shot of the ship. Wonder if the ship is mainly Guy Davis's contribution.
He's doing something, because, like, these lines are not these lines. Mm-hmm. They're like, this is somebody else's hand here.
It's really weird too to try to figure out Guy Davis or Vince Locke lines,
Right?
Because those two have some commonality.
When you look at Baker Street, like, they clearly had a big synergy. They had 10,000 hours of practice together. Yeah, but I mean, this is James O'Barr by way of Baker Street.
Check out his eyes. The reflection is almost like the nuclear sign.
Yeah, I was thinking Mickey Mouse, but those not too far divorced.
Both things that if I can get it into my work before you guys do will show up in my future.
Yeah, so
comics.
that's what assists means, man. There's a little Guy Davis hand on this stuff.
Yeah, and of course Vince Locke doing letters, and if it's all happening in a shared space, wouldn't be hard to imagine him filling in here and there.
Great
as well.
explosion.
Yeah, really nice. And that gets back to that sky you were pointing out where it's like white media on top of stuff. You see splatter, like white splatter as part of this. And the story is that this guy is taking control of the ship and blows up that planet in pursuit of the fugitive he's after. But of course, he keeps going because this is not the end of the book.
Right.
But how weird of a story is this? This must have been a paycheck story, right? Like, I assume Charles Marshall, if not Gary Reed, is paying these guys. I mean, he's the creator. This is his book, his character. So James O'Barr, Guy Davis, Vince Locke don't have a stake in this character. So you got to pay him, and it's like keeping the lights on in the studio space.
And these guys, like, they're cult hits at this point at the very, very least, man. Dead World's a thing. Maybe Baker Street
is out, yeah.
And stuff like The Realm, like Guy Davis has been around, and certainly The Crow is the tentpole caliber comic. Showing this off, like, I don't know if there's any other like art like worth noting, but we're gonna have to do Caliber Presents #2 and exhibit 1 through 5 or whatever for its relationship to like Outlaw Comics. It's the mantle is sealed. You have Tim Vigil, Tim Tyler, you got a Vince Locke Dead World, you got a James O'Barr strip to start things off. Like, look at that character right there, dude. That's freaking sick.
Yeah, and this is nice to see because look at the contrast in inking style. Whenever we're pointing out, like, is that Guy Davis on inks, you can see the very different approaches that James O'Barr, that I associate with James O'Barr, kind of art. And it's funny, the Skinner running off of the panel.
Yeah.
That's kind of a cool tip.
Look at that stuff right there, dude. There's your example of Vince Locke art with those, like, hatchy noodles. And
yeah, again, with that, using some pen work, although it looks like there's brush and pen on there.
Right.
Which is why, I look at some of this art and think, yeah, that could be, there could be some Vince Locke isms in there.
Yeah. That old brand Caliber comic, man, is near and dear to my heart. They had a run for a couple of years where it was this gothy horror Detroit aesthetic, and it's going to be investigated a little bit more on the Kayfabe channel.
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting how long they run, because it goes away from that, and now you've got the Bendises and the David Macks and
Oink.
Ed Brubakers. Did they do Oink?
Nah, I might have my kitchen sink now that I think about it.
I like Oink, by the way.
Yeah.
I would look at that. That's a quasi-outlaw kind of piece, if Painted Comics can qualify for that. But like I said, if you're a James O'Barr fan, I bet you don't know this story. I mean, this is I was shocked to find this.
And it's findable, You got yours for a quarter, I got 5 for a quarter over the years, man. So they're out there.
Yeah, this may be the perfect Kayfabe effect book in that...
price will go up to $1.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Warehouse within that cover that could easily be overlooked.
Right. It's surprising to me that I actually picked this one up, because it is pretty random, but that's why I think this is a quarter buy, not a $1 buy.
Right.
But probably worth $1 with that early James O'Barr story.
I'd buy that for $1. You good to go?
I am.
All right, Kayfabers, like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell, we'll notify you when new vids are available. What's out there, Jimmy?
Hulk Grand Design Monster #1 is in stores now. When you see this video, run to your local comic shop and grab a copy before they are sold out. This is a retelling of the 60-year history of the Incredible Hulk in 40 very dense pages, celebrating that history. You can also join me on patreon.com/JimRugg, where you can see a lot more of my comics, original art, and how I make those comics.
Red Room Trigger Warnings issue #1 is on the stands as we speak. Murder on the Dark Web for fun and profit. Every issue is completely self-contained. It's coming out on a monthly basis. We sold more comics this past... We had a big spike in sales this past week, and more Patreon subscribers this past week than I have in the past year. Want to thank people and invite people to check that out as well. I have more than 200 pages of Red Room comics on the Patreon. I put up new strips every Tuesday, and I put the Trigger Warnings comics up there before they hit paper. $3 for the entire archive, and you can hit up my link tree in the description below this video to get to all these comics.
There's Fantastic Four Grand Design, Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, which is now in Italian. There's an Italian version I just got, so check all that stuff out.
What else do we have out there, Jimmy?
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe e-newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts and merchandise at the links below this video.
That's another great way to support the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Jimmy, give them the marching orders. We'll be on our way.
Read more comics.